Good morning guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Helena and today's video is yoga for footballers. So we're going to start off today in all fours, taking the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips. We're just going to warm up the spine a little, something I always like to do at the beginning of a yoga practice. As we inhale, we're going to lift up with the crown of the head, taking the gaze ahead and up. And as we exhale, we're going to round the back, taking the gaze to the belly button. Once again, inhaling, lifting up with the gaze, lifting up with the head. Coming a little bit deeper this time. Exhaling, rounding the back, taking one more of these. Seeing if you can really focus on your deep inhale as you lift up with the crown of the head. And a deep exhale as you round the back, taking gaze to the belly button. Brilliant. Coming back to neutral. And now we're going to tuck under the toes and move into a downward facing dog. So lifting up with the hips and really pushing in with the fingers into the ground. Taking the hips up towards the ceiling, but we're not going to stay in a still, static downward dog. Instead, we're going to pedal out the feet one by one. So dropping one heel to the ground, taking the toes of the opposite foot to the ground. Holding here for a few moments and then moving on to the opposite side. So what we're really aiming to focus on here is getting a deep stretch in the calf muscle. Again, focusing on pushing the second and third finger into the ground. Feeling a good release there, maybe jiggling with the hips a little. And taking two more of these on each side. You should be noticing you can come deeper on each one as the muscles begin to release. After taking those two more on each side, we're going to move through our high plank position. So checking in that the shoulders are over the wrists. We're going to engage with the glutes here, tucking under with the toes, and slowly lifting the knees to the ground, lifting the chin and the chest to ground. We're coming to a gentle back bend. So taking the hands onto either side of the body, before moving them out in front of you, coming into Sphinx pose, laying the forearms out in front of you, taking the gaze forward. If this isn't quite enough and you're not really feeling anything in the back, you want something deeper, you can lift up onto the fingertips and then perhaps crawling the fingers a little bit closer in towards the body. Really engaging with your glutes here, pushing the tops of the feet into the ground and relaxing here for 3 or 4 breaths. See if you can also relax the shoulders, taking them away from the ears. Taking one more inhale here. Exhaling to lift back up with the hips, coming through all fours into a child's pose. So child's pose is a really nice therapeutic pose, can feel really good. And there's a couple of different variations you can try. One of them is to take the hands to one side, feeling a good stretch in the side of the body. And remembering whatever we do on one side, making sure we counteract this by doing it on the opposite side too. Taking a couple of breaths on each side. Moving the arms back through center. And then coming onto seated. Taking the feet together, we're going to stretch out the groin. So it can feel good to start off just taking the hands behind the hips and making a few bobs up and down with the knees. This can help to open up before we can come into a bit of a deeper variation. And this might just be where you stay today, especially if you get really tight around the groin area. If you feel like you want to come a bit deeper, taking the hands around the feet as if you're opening up pages of a book, lifting with the top of the head towards the sky or ceiling, and then as you exhale, folding forward, taking the chest towards the toes. Maybe using the elbows onto the insides of the legs to push down with the knees a little. Trying to keep the spine straight, gaze forward. Taking one more round of breath here, another inhale and exhale. And then gently moving the body back through center. Taking that right leg out in front of you, but keeping the left foot bent in towards the right leg. We're going to take a hamstring stretch here. As we inhale, we're going to lift up with the fingertips, engaging with the core. So imagine you're taking your belly button towards the spine. And as we exhale, we're going to fold forward over that straight leg. Taking the hands maybe around the shin, maybe around the thigh if you're particularly tight, maybe around the foot. And you're going to want to have a micro bend in the knee here. Folding forward onto that leg and enjoying the feeling that the hamstrings opening. With each exhale, come a little bit deeper. With each inhale, aiming to get length, tucking in the belly button towards the spine. Exhaling to fold. Taking another breath here. As you exhale, gently releasing the body, bringing it back up through center and keeping that left knee bent, but this time taking that foot over the right leg, bending the right knee in towards the body, taking figure 4 here, which you can also do lying down if that's more comfortable. So taking the hands in towards the hips, coming as far as feels uncomfortably comfortable, and then holding here for 3 or 4 breaths. If it's not quite intense enough, putting a little bit of pressure with the leg, turn that left knee out so that the legs are coming parallel towards the front of the room. Taking another deep round of breath. And then on the next inhale, releasing the legs to the ground, maybe giving them a little bit of a shake from side to side before we move on to the opposite side. So this time taking that left leg out in front of you, taking that right foot onto the inside of the left leg. As we inhale, lifting with the fingertips, putting the belly button towards the spine, and as we exhale, folding forward. Always having a micro bend in this front knee if we need to. And it doesn't matter if the hands are around the shin, foot or thigh, whatever's right for you today. With each inhale, gain some length, engaging with the core, and with each exhale, folding towards the ground. Taking another 2, perhaps 3 breaths here. Relaxing the shoulders. And on the next inhale, gently bringing the body back up through seated. Taking that right foot, placing it over the left leg, and then bending the left knee in towards the body. Walking the hands into the hips, and again, finding that uncomfortably comfortable position. Just placing a little bit of pressure with the knee, turning that top of the leg so that it's facing the front of the room. Taking a couple more breaths here. After one more breath, we're going to gently unravel the legs. Again, maybe making a few movements from side to side with the knees. And then we're going to come into a toe stretch. So to do this, we're going to come onto our knees and taking the tops of the feet under so that they're pointing into the ground. We're going to make a few movements from side to side. You should be feeling it quite deep on the backs of the feet here, up to the heels perhaps. Maybe placing the hands onto the thighs. If you need more support with the hands, taking them in front of you, you can do exactly the same. Some people feel this really intensely and some barely at all, so listen to your body, push it as much as you need to. Taking another couple of breaths here, perhaps coming back onto the heels. And then coming upright, coming into our yogi squat. So taking the elbows onto the insides of the legs and applying a little bit of pressure with the elbows, stretching out the groin again. Maybe taking the hands to heart center. And if your heels don't reach the ground, you can take the hands in front of you and perhaps making some small movements from side to side. Taking another few breaths here. And then releasing the hands onto the outsides of each side of that right foot, and then placing that left leg out onto the side. So here we should be feeling a stretch all up the leg, through the calf, up the hamstring, and into the groin. Taking the hands onto either side of the foot, facing the gaze forward. And taking a couple of breaths on this side, perhaps pointing with the toes. And it doesn't matter if your hips are reached upwards, wherever feels right for you today. On the next inhale, gently placing some pressure with the hands into the ground, moving the body onto the opposite side. So this time having the right toes outstretched, pointing them if you can, reaching that left heel to the ground if you can. But again, it doesn't matter if the hips are upright. The more you do this stretch, the deeper you'll be able to come. And then we're going to come onto the opposite side once again, using the hands to guide the body there. Doing one more of these on each side. And then moving once more over to the left. Pointing with the toes if we can. And then moving the body through center, keeping the legs wide and slightly tucking in with the toes. Taking the chest towards the ground, maybe using the hands on the ground, lifting up with the hips. And just practice moving the weight of the body through all four corners of both feet. Coming around in a circle a few times. And once we've done it one way, coming the other way. This can feel really good in the sides of the legs and through the feet, also into the calves and hamstrings. Making maybe some figure eights, any movements which feel good, relaxing with the shoulders. And now turning the body back through center, whatever way you want to come to this, coming back to all fours. And then we're going to take the arms out in front of us into puppy dog pose for a final stretch through the armpits. So with each exhale, seeing if you can take the armpits closer towards the ground, perhaps resting the chin on the ground, perhaps the forehead. Taking a couple more breaths here. Saying well done to yourself if you finished a football match or football training today. Coming back to seated or whatever position feels comfortable for you. Taking a few moments to come back to the breath. Enjoying the feeling of stretching your body out after a good match or practice. And thanks very much for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. Please comment or like on the video here. And thank you. Bye bye.